home.
Not my first time here. Sometimes I have to pass through here. I spent a lot of time in Ohio actually during that horrible master period in time. A little place called Yellow Springs. Sometimes I'm willing to say this.
Yeah, you did, didn't you? And what is crazy is later you ended up voicing Sonic.
Yes.
So a big Sega character, I believe, right?
Yeah, that was my side hustle, as they call it these days. I just got my mom's car and I got this gig to do Sonic. That turned into something that I never would have even imagined. It was, I wish I could say it was a labor of love. It was really kind of tough at the time, just going back and forth between high school, doing the show, and that. But man, I'm so grateful that I stuck with it because I just had no idea how well it was going to age.
Were you able to have a story?
I realized as an IP, an intellectual property, it moves from owner to owner to owner as it gets licensed. So, as I have so much respect for what they've done with it. I mean, with Jim Carrey being aboard now, that's amazing. I wish I had gotten a call, to be quite honest. I did not. But I don't take it personally because I just know that is the edict of every producer who gets a hold of something is how can I put my stamp on it. So just to be attached to the legacy, you know, in a kind of a Batmanish way. I guess I'm like the Adam West of Sonic the Hedgehog.
Honestly, the shows are not the same anymore. The shows, the wardrobe, the music. It's just, you know, those little things that, I mean, my husband and I just go.
I love that you don't know.
Yes.
No, I was never a part of the original conceit of the show. I was there to do one guest spot in episode 12. So at the end of the first season, because I was working with veteran producers who knew what they were going to do with me, we spent an entire day shooting teasers. And teasers were the one scene that appears right before the opening titles. And so they replaced probably I'd say about 4, 5, 6 maybe, teasers from the shows that I wasn't in previously. So there are probably about 5 to 6 episodes of Family Matters that I'm just completely not in. And then they started sneaking me in with these teasers. And through syndication, you know, especially at the beginning, they kind of hook you, and then you think the character's coming back. It's not coming back for that episode, but they knew they needed to do that for syndication purposes. I'm actually able to write for the character. In the first season, I got one storyline because that's all they had time to write on the fly as I joined the cast. And I'll never forget that episode. It was called Laura's Big Date, and I basically tore up a French restaurant.
Yes.
Actually, I took all next. And it was like, I looked behind it, there was a small sign saying Rocky 4, you know. And I was a big Rocky fan, so I ended up trying to get that part, but you know, they turned me down, and then my acting coach, actually, we had dinner with one of Stallone's friends, John Hertzfeld, who's a director, directed Stallone in a couple of movies, and he's a friend of mine now, but anyway, he did say that, you know, did you do any acting? And I said, yeah, and he's like, well, you're the guy Sly's looking for, you know, he's writing a script about there's a Soviet boxer in it, and aren't you like a champion? And I said, yeah, and he's like, you gotta give me a 8x10. So I got on my motorcycle and drove downtown. We were in Manhattan, and you know, got an 8x10 when I'm all buffed, you know, from Australia with no shirt. And finally, Sly got the picture months later, and I got to meet him in LA, and then I had to practice for a screen test and had to put on some muscle because I was kind of slim, you know, big legs, kind of like a fighter, you know, and then I auditioned for it, and there you go, and I got the part, and moved to LA. 95 movies later, what is it, 100 movies later, I'm sitting here. As well. By the time I was about to fight in the world tournaments, when I was a bit of I was one of the favorites, I would say, I'd already moved to New York, and I was about to get into acting, so I didn't follow through there.
But you were doing this, and you know, at the same time, you were pursuing this whole other life. And here's what I find I mean, I don't want to say that it's crazy, but it's kind of crazy. So you know, you're a scientist by training. You're an engineer. Certainly there must be some aspiration in that direction, but you're in this full contact, no kidding sport, and you are risking your instrument, your brain, right? I mean, you're probably like absolutely the smartest person in this convention, all right? And you are risking your brain by having some wacko kick you in the side of the head.
No, you're right. My dad didn't. I mean, it was complicated. You're right. Very complex. I got into the fighting because I had something to express. I had some built-up trauma, physical trauma, because of the beatings I would get when I was a kid. And I think the only way to express that is, you know, it's called, I've learned later, escape behavior. You're trying to escape something like PTSD. A soldier, you know, you're living under life-threatening conditions, say in Afghanistan, and you're there for a year. And while you're fighting, it's okay. Your body is in survival mode. You don't really suffer too much from it. But when you get back, when it's over, your body has like another reaction. You know, like your body has to compensate somehow. You have to. What comes in through the body has to go out through the body. And escape behavior could be drugs, alcohol, you know, affairs, violence, you know, things like that. And I think that I had that. It was in me already, and if I hadn't become a fighter, I would have maybe self-destructed in some other way if I hadn't become an actor, because that was more of an emotional expression. So that would, you know, I think without that I wouldn't have survived probably. I would have been very unhappy. I thought they were going to exploit the character and make him like a silly bad guy, you know, like a cardboard cutout. And there was a script, I started reading it, but I stopped after about 20 pages. I just, shit, I don't want to do this. You know, it was like racial, you know, he was a racist, and my son in the movie was like, you know, with Michael B, you know, it's like, nah, this is bad. But then they brought in this new director, Stephen Capel, and he rewrote it. And you know, he comes from the projects, you know, this guy, and he understood, okay, Drago and his son, they're like, living the projects in Ukraine, you know, so he kind of rewrote the characters, and I read that script, and it was very good. And I thought, wow, this is pretty cool. Because basically the whole premise for my guy was, if there's one guy in the whole wild world who will never throw in the towel, it's Ivan Drago. And of course, at the end of the movie, when he throws it in to save his son, it's like, wow, shit, you know. Who thought of that? I mean, because you don't even remember that there's the opportunity to throw in the towel. I couldn't even, you know, it's an expression, but you can actually do it, you know? And so I thought, wow, this is a great arc. If I ever saw a good arc, this is it. So,
It's like you had, like, it was the best delivery of the line on Batman that anybody has ever delivered on screen. When the lady,
I can't remember that.
yeah,
I said it.
The crazy Yakuza lady was like torturing you, and she asked you who you were, and you said, "I'm Batman." That's awesome. A lot of people, but I mean, that's new.
Yeah, I didn't know who the Punisher was. I got some comic books and checked them out. But it was also rewritten. The script was written by Robert Kamen, who did, you know, Karate Kid. He wrote, you know, Taken, I think, and ended up doing all of those later. A very good writer, and he's a martial artist too. He's a Goju-Ryu guy. So that was fun. That's kind of when I brought martial arts back, because I hadn't done any martial arts in my other films, and that was the first time they brought some fighters in from Tokyo, and these two guys from Tokyo, and they showed up in Sydney, Australia, and they were thinking they're here to fight me, you know, fight Dolph Lundgren. But no, they're here for a movie. They didn't understand it, you know. So they were both, when they both got killed in the picture, they were both in tears. They were crushed. You can't go back to Japan now, you know. They've lost face. One was actually in tears on set. Yeah, it was funny. But
Did you kill him and put him out of his misery?
Yeah, with the spear.
Sorry, man.
Sorry, buddy.
Well, and surreal in it, that it's so much fun to watch. And I actually went and I saw it at the Universal City Cinemas with James Cameron. And we watched that, and afterwards we said, well, that was a lot of fun, wasn't it? They said, yeah. But I so enjoy that movie, and I'm friends with Bill Malone, who was the main designer on it. And it's such a surprise to see this, little cartoon made so beautifully real, and you fit so well in it.
Well, thank you. I agree. I think, when I was disappointed when the film came out, Canon Films kind of went under.
Yeah, yeah.
They ran out of money, and they had to we still had a huge stage, but they had to cut it in half.
They ran out of money that they could skim off the top.
Yeah, exactly. They stole too much. So, I do think the character, I saw the movie. It was the 40th anniversary of the birth of He-Man. I think he came out in 1983 or something. So 2023, I went to a Marvel screening of that picture, and it was cool. It kind of holds up. I saw a 35mm print, which is kind of cool.
It totally does.
Yeah, it holds up. It's very kind of childlike, but I like it. It holds up, and I do look pretty buffed. How do you end up looking like that? I don't know. It's like watching Arnold in Conan.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to pull that off today. There are enough steroids in the world to look like that because people don't want to train 8 hours a day like Arnold did,